Good morning, Y3. This is your third maths lesson of the week on Wednesday the 13th of January 2021. We hope that you're all well and staying safe at home. To start with, to warm up our brains, I would like you to practice your 2 times tables, or there is a link on the blog to a game you can play where you have to try and shoot the correct answer. So, for example, 4 times 1. We know the rule: if we're timesing by 1, then the answer is going to be itself. So you would have to shoot the number 4. Pause the video now and either practice your 2 times tables or play the times table game. Our learning for today is on arrays. An array is made up by arranging a set of objects into rows and columns. It's really important that each row must contain the same number of objects as the other rows, and each column must also contain the same number of objects as other columns. You've used arrays before in Year 2. They're really useful for multiplication. What is a row? So this is some apples in a row. Goes from left this side all the way to right at that side. How many rows of apples can you see? So remember, this is a row, so we've got 1 row and 2 rows. Did you get that right? Do the rows have equal numbers of objects? Remember, for it to be an array, it's got to have equal number in the rows. So let's have a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, the rows have an equal number of objects, and there are 6 apples in each row. Now it wants us to split the soldiers up into lines of 5 rows. If we have 15 soldiers, can you draw them into rows of 5? And how many rows will you draw? Try this now, and then press play to continue when you're ready to find out the answer. So if we lined the soldiers up in 5 rows, we would draw 1 row of 5, another row of 5, and another row of 5. So there are 3 rows with 5 soldiers in each row. Like we were doing yesterday, we could do a repeated addition. 5 add 5 add 5. And in total we've got 15. Could we write a multiplication equation to show this? Yes, we could. We know we've got 3 lots of 5. So our multiplication equation would be 3 times 5 equals 15. Have a try at this question now. So the eggs have been arranged into rows. How many rows have we got? 2 rows. Well done if you got that right. With how many eggs in each row? 5 eggs in each row. Altogether there are how many eggs? Give yourself a pat on the back if you got 10 eggs. So we know we have got 2 lots of 5 equals 10. And if we were writing it with the multiplication symbol, 2 multiplied by 5 equals 10. Well done if you knew that. Can you have a try in your books at writing some statements and calculations for this array? How many rows are there? How many cars in each row? How many cars have you got all together? And then you need to write a repeated addition calculation and the multiplication equation. Let's count the rows first. 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. So there are 3 rows with 1, 2, 3, 4 cars in each row. Altogether, 4, 8, 12 cars altogether. Adding our rows up. So we're going to add this row first. 4, add 4, add 4 equals 12. And if we were writing it as a multiplication question, we would write it as 3 times 4 equals 12. Or remember we learnt yesterday that multiplication is commutative, so you could also write it as 4 times 3 equals 12. Well done if you got those answers right. We also need to look at the columns in arrays. Columns go from top to bottom. So this one is a column. How many columns of apples can you see? Have a count now. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Did you agree? And do columns have the equal number of objects? Yes or no? Yes, they do. We can see this array definitely does. You can see that each column contains 2 apples. Have a try at this question now. There are, how many columns have we got? 1, 2, 3. With how many crayons in each? 10 crayons in each column. This makes how many altogether? 30. This is where our times tables come in really handy, because we could do our 10 times tables here. 10, 20, 30. We know we have 3 lots of 10, which equals 30. Or if we were writing the multiplication calculation, 3 times 10 equals 30, or 10 times 3 equals 30. Have a try at writing this one in your book. Press play when you're ready for me to help you with the answer. Remembering that our columns go from top to bottom. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns with 1, 2, 3, 4 pencils. Altogether, how many pencils have we got? We've got 20 pencils altogether. So our calculation would be 5 times 4 equals 20. Or is there another way that we could write it? Could we also write 4 multiplied by 5 equals 20? Yes, we can, because it's commutative. And we know this because we could count our columns or we could count our rows, and each way it would give us the same total of 20. So we could look at it either way. We could count 3 add 3 equals 6, or we could count up in our 2's going across the rows, 2, 4, 6. Whichever way you do it, if you look at the rows or if you look at the columns, it will make the same total. Challenge time. Can I make an array with 9 pairs? So I want you to use objects or draw an array to prove whether yes I can or no I can't. Remember to press pause if you need a little bit more time. Okay, let's find out. Yes, you can make an array with 9 objects. Miss Callahan tried to trick you a little bit there. We know that we can't have unequal groups in our arrays, so when the pairs look like this, we know it's not an array because we've got 5 in the top row and 4 in the bottom row. But if we move the pairs around into rows of 3 and columns of 3, then it's an array. 3 add 3 add 3 equals 9, and 3 times 3 equals 9. And whichever way you write it, it's going to look the same because 3 times 3 equals 9 is the same as 3 times 3. Have a look at this array here. Which number sentences, which multiplications are represented by the array? So to work this out, we need to count the rows and columns. 1, 2, 3. All our groups are equal. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and how many columns? 1, 2, 3 columns. So we know if we write it as a multiplication that we could have 3 times 4 or 4 times 3. Well done if you got that. Next, in your books, I would like you to draw an array to represent 5 times 3. So draw circles, sticking neatly to your squares to represent 5 times 3. Are you ready for the answer? Pause the video if you need a little bit more time. You should hopefully have something like this. Either way is fine. You can have 3 rows of 5 or 5 rows of 3. Whichever way you look at it, if you flip it round, it will end up looking the same. Our final problem before you move on to your task is how many different arrays can you make with 16 counters? So using objects, or like you did for the last question, drawing circles, how many different arrays can you make with 16 counters? I'll give you a clue. There's more than one. Pause the video now and have a try at this, and then press play when you're ready to find out how many different ways there are. Miss Callahan managed to find 6 different ways to build an array with 16 counters. So she found 1 times 16 and 16 times 1. And then I had 2 rows of 8, or 8 columns of 2. And then 4 multiplied by 4, 4 rows times by 4 columns. Did you manage to find 6 ways too? And if we looked closely at the multiplication sentences, can you spot a relationship? Is there a number relationship between 16 and 18 and 4? Is there a relationship between 1, 2 and 4? If you have the number 16, you could halve it and you'll get 8. If you have the number 1, what do you need to do with it to make it into 2? You can double it. Is it the same for this? What is 8 halved? Half of 8 is 4. And if we double 2, we also get to 4. I think that's pretty cool. You could try this practically with your objects. Your tasks to be doing for the remainder of the lesson: red, orange, yellow and green. You have all got this sheet to do. And then when you finish that, I have got a challenge. I want you to, like we did for the number 16, make as many different arrays as you can, with 18 circles, 30 circles and 36 circles. And blue group, you are adding Numicon together. We hope you're all working really hard to complete your work at home. Well done for tuning into the lessons every day. We're all really proud of you in school. Hope you stay nice and safe and well. Enjoy the rest of your day.